Before we begin, we wanted to let you know that the topics of child loss, sexual assault, domestic abuse, and miscarriage are either mentioned or discussed in this episode. Please make sure to take care of yourself while listening.
Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Oh, Ometeotla. Well, welcome. My name is Jerry Teo, and I want to welcome you to the Healing Generations podcast as part of Healing Generations Institute and the National Compadres Network. And I want to thank you all for joining us today. As we always begin, I want to thank Creator and thank the ancestors. If we could just take a moment, just take a deep breath and just acknowledge all those ancestors, all your relatives, all those people that came before that you may know, you may not know, but they're in you. They're in your DNA, they're in your spirit. And they've all walked, a road in order that you could be here. So we want to take a moment to acknowledge them. And let's bring all those grandmas in, all those grandpas in, all of them, the ones that we knew, the ones we didn't know, the ones that blessed us up and the ones that messed us up. We're going to bring them all in because we're all part of all of that. And as we sit here too, I want to acknowledge them on Gabrielino Tongva land, and so we acknowledge the relatives on the land of which we sit, wherever you're sitting, just take a moment, acknowledge those relatives there, but also then think about the barrio, the hood that you're sitting in, because there's some OGs, there's some, grandmas, some veteranos, some folks there that have been there a long time, taking care of that neighborhood. And we want to think about them and think about the children. And then we come to you, you individually, just acknowledge you today. If you haven't had a moment to just acknowledge you as a blessing, acknowledge you as a sacred person. Wherever you're on your road, remember that sacredness lives within us all the time. And so as we begin today, we want to just do that and just thank you so much for joining us. Today's a very special day for me, because I get to sit with, you're all going to get to listen to someone that's very special to me, that known for a long time. I consider her a sister, consider her an elder, consider her a teacher, consider her a friend, and a wonderful, wonderful person that shares her gift of acting, of performing, of bringing medicine through teatro, through her words, through her poetry, through her walk. And we've known each other for a long time, worked together on different projects, but really, walked this spiritual road for a long time. And so I'm very pleased to have Raquel Salinas with me today. And she's blessing us, with her presence and with her words. And very excited to have this dialogue. Raquel, thank you so much for joining us today. And I want to give you the opportunity to say a few words to the audience.
I just want to say thank you to Creator, and thank you, Familia, for listening to this wonderful program. I've been hearing the podcast and hearing the voices of many people that are doing healing work in our community, and I'm honored to be here. I have a long history with Jerry, and you'll hear part of my story and her story, his story. It's important to me to share my truth with you, and hopefully it'll touch somebody's corazón and start them on their healing journey, if they haven't started already. Thank you. Meteo.
Oh, thank you, Raquel. And I want to begin just by allowing you to share a little bit about who are you, Raquel, where do you come from? Who are your people? What was that journey of those folks that guided you, that, brought you here, the experience you had, and just allow you a little bit of time just to share a little bit about who Raquel is.
I am first generation Mexicana here, born in San Antonio, Texas. My parents were from Coahuila and Tamaulipas, so soy norteña all the way.
Yeah.
But I was raised in LA, and we started in Echo Park, then to the east side, and then we moved to Downey, which was the first time I saw blonde hair, and I wanted to touch it. The little boy in front of me, because I hadn't seen that on the east side, and it was all new to me. And it was a different role for me because as things changed in Downey, with more Mexicanos coming in, I was the person they'd call, Raquel, can you send Raquel to the office? And I would help the little ones, Mexicanos or whatever Latino they were, adjust to being in a new school, not knowing the language. And I knew the language, as well as being an interpreter for my parents with doctor appointments and different things in the beginning of my life. And as a daughter of a first generation immigrant, I had to look out for my younger siblings and helping with a lot of things around the house. So I sometimes felt like a maid, but it's not that. It's just helping the family survive when your parents are working and sometimes working 2 jobs. And I see it differently now. It's like what I needed to do to support my family. So that's a little bit of my history. I grew up in a very rigid Christian environment, no drinking in the house, none of that, and very strong values of serving your community, serving your church, whatever. And I walk a different path today. I practice Native American ceremony, and that is a big part of my journey now. It's helped me survive a lot of my traumas and healing. I don't want to call them traumas. It's more like, how do you say cargas, Jerry?
Yeah.
Cargas, pruebas, whatever. It's just part of life.
Yeah. And what you speak about, in terms of how we transform what has been laid on us or put on us or said to us of what we've experienced, that's part of what I've seen in you, that when we recognize that traumas were teachings, traumas were lessons, they were challenges, and all of us, regardless of what path we walk or what journey we walk, we all have those lessons, those challenges. And I guess we have to decide whether they become, we transform them into teachings, I'd be interested, just to you talk a little bit about how it was for you as a young person. I mean, because growing up in East LA is one thing, growing up in Downey is something else. And it's beautiful that you were able to take on that role of translator of reality for young kids.
Well, I think what's important is the people that come into our lives that mentor us, because I felt like as a little girl and having that responsibility for my younger brother and sister, make sure they got home safely, make sure they had a snack after school, make sure they made their beds, and I did all the rest. And but it was beautiful in that there was a teacher that reached out to me regarding Glee Club, which was singing. I wasn't a singer, but it was a significant part of my life as an outlet to sing. And we did all the Mary Poppins songs or whatever. And then my mom and my little sister came to my performance, and it just meant a lot to me. And that teacher took me on for the 5th and 6th grade, because she asked my mom if she could keep me for the 6th grade, because she had 5th, 6th combination. And then there was another person, Mrs. Davis, which was part of Campfire Girls. I was a Campfire girl.
You were in Campfire Girls?
Yes. But in order to go camping, I had to sell extra candy. And I did, because I really wanted to go camping. And it was the most wonderful week of my life, because I was away from my siblings, away from my parents. And then they said, you need to write your mom a letter and send it to her. Do I have to? I was having too much fun. I didn't want to be interrupted, but I did as they asked. And there we were, horseback riding, camping in the mountains. And that's when I fell in love with the camping part of it, just being in the outdoors and having fun and being me, like free, making kids laugh. I was very silly. And I'm grateful to those people. And Mrs. Davis passed not too long ago, but one day she left me a voicemail and she said, I remember, Raquel, when we had a sleepover and you asked me for the broom because you wanted to clean up all the popcorn the girls left behind. I didn't even remember she had an accent because it had been so many years, but that she noticed those little things about me. But it was because that's what I knew. Agarra la escoba. Ponte a barrer. It was like, so to me, it was like automatic, like you just do what you got to do, right? Clean up the mess. But I'm grateful now for those gifts, that my mother taught me, cómo limpiar bien, how to just take care of yourself, how to cook. I love to cook now because of her. And I love serving my community because she served her church, and if you realize, like, she did the best she could with what she had. Yeah. And she made some, mistakes like most parents do, but if you know the backstory, then don't judge. Just know that accepting them for who they were,
Yeah.
And I know as a little girl, because you asked me, at 8 years old, she lost her 5th child. She had gone to the doctors and she was ready to deliver. The doctor was not there, so the nurses held her legs together and the baby is asphyxiated. And my father said, we're not going to sue. But I remember being in front of my tia's house. They came home and then I said, ¿Y el baby? No va a haber baby. That was my father's attitude. And my mother, she said that she wasn't allowed to cry. So she would get this pain in her heart. And I used to, tráeme el alcohol. And I would get the alcohol and rub her back. This is me at 8 years old. That's when my role changed. Yeah. She became diabetic. And then, all these other complications. But that was my role, to take care of my mom in that way.
I just want to acknowledge you, but also acknowledge for many of the listeners, how things that we see as, we have to do these things. We have to do this for our family. We got to clean up, or parents make us do these things. Got to take care of our mom. How those teachings, those lessons become, something very valuable in terms of our, if you will, our rites of passage to becoming servers of the community and healers in the community, and at 8, you were taking care of your mom. You were healing her heart, and that's something you've done your whole life, healing people's hearts, but at the same time, you mentioned your mom, then had diabetes. And one of the things that we don't recognize, and especially for many of our families, they don't have obviously, the healthcare system at that time and many times now was not very compassionate, and your dad didn't know what to deal with it, so he just says I'm not going to deal with it, and a lot of times men do that, and your mom couldn't cry, and so then she gets diabetes. And what we don't realize is that if we don't deal with the trauma, if we don't deal with the hurt, then it converts into something else. It converts into something physical or mental or emotional in us. And then it changes us, So, what you were doing for your mom, and what many people do and what you still do now, it, really is helping people, kind of transform that trauma that they're going through, And I just want to acknowledge you for that, but acknowledge all those folks that do that many times we say, man, I got to stay home and take care of my brothers and sisters. I got to take care of my mom. I got to take my dad here. I got to do this and make me clean up. But all of those things really are a preparation for us, to really be able to care for and fight for justice. And because you also explored injustice, you saw what happened with your parents and gave you a consciousness that way, But I'm wondering, and now as you reflect back, what were some of those struggles and what were some of those lessons and some of the traumas that you had to deal with? Because you being at 8, if you will, starting to mother, it meant that you couldn't even deal with some of the stuff you were going through because you had to take care of your brothers and sisters. You had to take care of your mom. So I'm sure there were things that along your path that you also had to struggle with, that since you saw the example of your parents not dealing with it, that's what happened to me. I didn't know how to cry. I didn't cry because that's what I saw my dad and my, tios and all them doing, cállese, no seas chillón, and don't be a sissy, and, and so I didn't know how to deal with pain. Can you talk a little bit about those struggles and what you learned?
Well, I think for me, it was anger. It wasn't about not crying. I would cry de coraje. And my mom would say, corajuda, mírate en el espejo, pareces el diablo. So I would run to the mirror and look at myself. And I remember one time hitting myself, Jerry. I'm not happy to say that, but I was so angry at myself because I did look like the devil. I was red, furious. And then how she would do that in front of my siblings, and it was because she would work really hard. Now I know she worked retail and she would come home from work and her feet were killing her. She was diabetic. She was hungry. She was grumpy and took it out on me. And so I had to make sure everything was done. Like, hiciste las camas, sí, hiciste esto, all these things that I had to do. But, and then cook before she got home, get the dinner started. And then if I would forget one thing, then she would go in on me and yell at me. And so it helped me in that when I was in school, I would always look out for the underdog. I mean, that's the way I see it. It was like anybody made fun of somebody, I would stand up. Don't talk to him like that. That's my friend Loretta. The Beatles wrote a song about you, Loretta, or whatever, to make them feel better, or the gay kid. I was always defending the underdog, and I attribute it to that. I couldn't stand that, and I'm not perfect, but I try not to be judgmental because it really hurt me in the end. Like I think it was like, I believe when I was 15 and my brother was drafted to go to Vietnam, that's when I started fighting against injustice in a true manner. Like I marched against the Vietnam War. I was at the Chicano Moratorium. I saw the cops come in beating heads. And ever since then, I dedicated my life to fighting against injustice, to the point where my friend would call me Dial-A-Cause, because U.S. out of Central America, immigrant rights, gay rights, persons with AIDS, whatever. It was my causa. I would take it on. And I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
I got arrested for AIDS when I was working in the AIDS field. All these things that I did in my life, and I put it into my teatro. That's another thing. I wrote a piece about what happened at the Chicano Moratorium and how my brother was affected. And, I believe that theater saved me from the arts, because at 15, my cousin was a student at East LA College. And she's the one that told me about the moratorium. She's the one that taught me about what was going on with the Black Panthers, the Brown Berets, todo eso, the boycotts, boycott grapes, boycott Coors, and why we boycotted Coors, because they weren't hiring Latinos at top level positions. And who was drinking the most Coors beer? Raza. So boycott and the effect of a boycott, and fast forward, I'm working at El Centro Human Services in East LA, and we were on strike for 10 weeks. And I knew all the politicians, Gloria Molina, que a la Torre, que, standing on the same platform with Jesse Jackson, at a rally. And it was like, I had a voice.
Yeah.
And that's what I gained from all of these pruebas, these struggles, was to have a voice, to not be silent. And my cousin introduced me to the teatro by taking me to see El Teatro Campesino at East LA College. It was the first time at 15 that I saw that kind of powerful political theater.
Yeah.
And I said, that's what I want to do. So when I started college, I would get involved in the Chicano theater movement. Anyway, that's a big part of my life, is giving voice, and then working with you.
Yeah. Well, that's when we met. We met, and I was working a lot on the areas of child sexual abuse and domestic violence and sexual assault, and it was now the East LA Women's Center. It was before then the East LA Rape Hotline, and that's where I met you. And you became part of Teatro Cariño, and became part of a theater piece that we co-created, called Familia Bienestar or something like that, and it was really
Familia Buena y Sana.
Buena y Sana. That's right, yeah. And it was really a piece around our families and our family struggle, but also the issue of sexual abuse, because at that time there was a lot of exposure to sexual abuse, but very little explanation in our communities, in our Raza communities around that, and we wanted to create not only exposure but healing for our communities. And that's where I met you, and you came in and became part of a group of folks that we created, the teatro. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, about that journey. When I met you, you had all that fire and had all that energy and all the talent, but also there was some struggle there too.
Yes, it was the Maxine water spill on child abuse prevention that why we were able to do this work.
Right.
I thank you for that, because it was a true collective. And that's how I was used to working with the theater. We would sit together. I think there were 7 or 8 of us working together to create the play. And in that, we shared, out of 6 or 7 of us, whatever, I think 4 of us were either molested or raped. And I'm a rape survivor. And it had been 12 years of silence where I said nothing. I never told anyone, any of my boyfriends, my friends, I don't think. I was in silence for those years, and I shared. And then Alba Moreno said, you know what, Raquel, you should train with the volunteers for the East LA Rape Hotline, because you would be good for that. You know what it's like. You know what you went through. You could help other women. And then, of course, at that time, I used to curse a lot, and I said, F it, I'll do it. And I went through the training. And that's when I saw a video of a girl getting raped in the backseat of a car. And the whole trauma came back. And my medicine was a little bottle of tequila, and fire up a joint.
Mm.
That's how I dealt with it. And they had told me, if anything comes up for you ladies, you can call the hotline. You can, you reach out to one of us. And I wasn't going to reach out to anybody. I wasn't going to call a hotline. I knew. I just get my tequila, light up a joint, that I would numb out for years and years and years because I didn't know how to deal with it. The shame that my mom told me, Dios te castigó por andar en la calle, por eso te pasan esas cosas. God punished me. And so I was like, F God, F my mom, and pretty much F myself because I became very self-destructive. But I was what you call a functional because I always had a job. I always did my work. I always was, well, most of the time on time. And now I'm always on time, But it was the beginning of my healing because then and there, they asked me to go to group counseling that the hotline offered.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to group counseling with 3 other women. And for the first time, I felt like I wasn't alone. There were other women that had gone through what I gone through. One was gang raped, one was raped at gunpoint by her boyfriend. And from that, I went into one-on-one counseling with that same therapist. And, well, I'm not embarrassed to say, but I was engaged to be married and I was in a domestic violence situation to boot. So first time in healing that and also going through DV. I was able to get out because my father never disrespected my mother, ever. He was not a machista. She wanted to work. She wanted to drive. Whatever she wanted to do, she did, and there was no ifs or buts, and he never called her a bad name. So I think that made it easier for me to leave that situation. And when I went back home and told my mother, I don't want to get married, this is not working for me, whatever. And the guy kept calling me and writing to me. And my mom said, why don't you give him another chance? I go, you know why I left him, Mama? Because he hit me. Pues que hiciste? There you go, the judgment. I'm at fault. And I didn't have that trusting relationship with my mom. We were always like this.
Yeah.
But in the end, we were like this because I did the work. Because I went on a silent meditation in the mountains with Vipassana because my friend asked me to do it. And 10 days in silence. And I didn't even know how to pray then, but I prayed to my grandmas and my grandpas from both sides, help me. And it came, you need to make peace with your mom. And I was like, what? You need to make peace with your mom. So I said, there's no way that can happen unless I get a mediator. So I got a friend, my friend Marita, and she was from Mexico. She spoke fluent Spanish and she was able to help me mediate with my mom and ask why she said that. And she said, es que yo no sabía tratar esas cosas. She didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
She was from Mexico. I mean, God was her therapist. She might have prayed on it or whatever, but I became self-destructive. I didn't know, how to deal with it. And that was the beginning of my journey. So I'll always be grateful for that connection with you. And then I would make jokes like, I don't trust anybody, just Jerry Teo. You're the only man on earth that I trusted. It took a while. Now I'm open and I'm trusting of men and women because I didn't trust either.
Yeah.
But I've come a long way.
Yeah.
And the Red Road has been a big part of that.
I want to acknowledge you, Raquel, because through it all, and because we were together doing the work, but also we were part of a familia. And we saw each other's blessings, but we saw each other's pains. And when you put on a performance every night where you have to deal with this issue of sexual abuse, it's not just a performance, it's personal. You feel it.
Yes.
You reenact it again. And we chose and were able to do that because we wanted our community to heal. And I saw it in you, and you were so transparent, but also so healing for so many people, because after we would perform, mamas and abuelitas and young girls would come up to you, and to Connie and to the other mujeres there. They would come up and talk to you. So you became an avenue for other people to heal that way. And the way I think that all of us were able to get through it and prepare was because, we, at that time, and I was already into learning and reclaiming the sense of sacredness through our indigenous ways. So through prayer and through sweat lodge and through ceremonia and all of that, That was the avenue that really kind of brought us as a teatro together, brought us as a familia together, but gave us all an avenue to be able to heal, to be able to explore and be able to then recover the sacredness, but also deal with the woundedness that we didn't understand was generations old. So you were healing for your mama, you were healing for your daddy, you were healing for your grandma, you know? And I wonder if you can talk just a little bit about that healing path for you and what it's meant and what you've learned from that.
Well, that if you don't heal it, it can happen again.
Mm.
That's one. Because what happened was I was always connected to a lot of artists, performers, filmmakers, writers, visual artists. And there was this one artist who said, "Hey, Raquel, why don't you write a piece? We're going to do something for Pen Writers Organization downtown and write a piece." So, I'm wearing a rebozo right now. I love rebozos. And I was going to write something on getting out the vote. And what happened, I went to this place in East LA that had said juices for, on sale and massage, this little sale thing. So I walked in there and they talked me into getting a facial. Well, they asked me if I wanted a facial for $10. I go, yes. So I got the facial. And then they talked me into getting a massage.
Mm.
And then the masseuse se le pasó la mano and he touched my private. And the rage came back, 0 to 10, 0 to 10 rage. And I did get help. I did report it because the first time I reported it, but I didn't press charges because the rapist said, "I will shoot up your pad." It was somebody that I knew. It was a date rape. But in this case, I reported it. I went to the police. The police came in, they interviewed me. The police officer went to the place of business and they were gone.
Mm.
But they caught him. So what came to me was the rebozo. I got it, and it was the rifle of the women in Chiapas fighting in the mountains.
Mm.
It was the costurera that gets abused downtown by her supervisor. It was the farm worker picking in the fields and the abuse that happens to women in the fields. It was the pregnant teen giving mom. The rebozo became everything. And then at the end, I come as a professional standing by a woman that's been molested by a doctor and defending her and losing the case. And then coming home to an abusive relationship. And when I did that, one of my girlfriends came up to me. She goes, "Oh, Raquel, I loved your work." It was called Heat Your Own. Like, caliéntalas tú. Because in the end, I throw out a tortilla. Caliéntalas tú. Like, make your own meals, cook your own. It ends in a very soft note. Anyway, so my friend says, "I don't believe that professional woman coming home to that abusive relationship." I said, "That professional woman is me." "But you're so strong. You're so, Yes, I am strong. And I was strong enough to leave that relationship. And what came of it, from all the pain of that past, what happened to me, and all the pain of the masseuse molesting me, I put it into my art. That was my avenue of expression, my avenue of healing. And I performed UC Davis, Sacramento State. I went to Oaxaca. I performed at Cal State LA, at all these different conferences and getting paid for it, which was nice. And for the unions, like I performed all over the place. But when I performed in Sacramento, I got a standing ovation. And this woman came up to me and she said, "I know you got a standing ovation, but I could not stand. And the reason is you made me think about a lot of things." She says, "I've been in an abusive relationship for 15 years with a woman. And today I'm ready to stand up and leave."
Oh.
And she's crying, she's hugging me. And that's what it means to me. It's like I helped one person heal. Who knows how many others who didn't come up to me.
Right.
But she came up to me and told me that. It meant so much to me. We're there hugging, crying together. And I'm saying, I'm making a difference.
Yeah.
And that's why I continue to write and tell stories. Mujeres de Juárez, about the Madres de Juárez. I interviewed them, but I interviewed them by telling them my story first. I said, "Yo soy sobreviviente y ustedes están peleando por sus hijas. Mi madre no peleó por mí." And I was able to interview them and write a performance about it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of power. I believe that theater saved me from the streets.
Yeah.
I really do.
Well, I think theater is your medicine.
Yes.
Theater's been your medicine not only to heal yourself, but to open the medicine for so many people in our communities. And there's a spectrum, I want people to understand, because I've seen that other part of you, not just healing mujeres, but healing children. When we were in the teatro, you had the payasos cariñosos, right? And cariño, cariño para ti y para mí, con respeto y confianza y dignidad, cha, 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 and you'd dress up as a clown, you had Raca Respeto, right? And you had Andy Dignidad and Cani Cariño and the three payasitos, and you'd go perform for these young children to teach them about their dignity, about their respect, about trust, about love, because that's where it starts, because a lot of our families, are so busy working and surviving that their children don't understand they deserve all these things, And then, you've been a payasa for years, and I don't mean just your character, but as a payasa, you go and perform as a clown.
Yes, and that happened by accident. It was my nephew's 7-year birthday, and I'm in the park, and I'm wearing my Raca Respeto outfit, because I wanted to dress up as a clown. And what happened was somebody came up to me and say, "How much do you charge?" And I was like, "Charge?" to be a clown. They go, "Yeah, next Saturday I'm having a birthday party here in the park, and can you come for a couple of hours?" And I go, "How much?" At that time was $50 an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and then I upped my prices, but yes. And what I realized is like, I get to play, not when I was a little girl. I'm a big girl now, but I get to play.
Yeah.
So the tug of war, you get balloon toss, you get relay races, you can follow me, I'm the leader, and just all these fun things with the kids I got to play.
Yeah.
So whatever I didn't play as a child, I played as an adult, because I did it for years. And I still have friends that, I have pictures of you as my now grown child, as a clown. And, it's very healing.
Yeah.
And now I work with children.
Talk about that work. You work with children.
Well, I never had children, and I'm not going to be a grandma. So I'm working at Matilija Escuela Bosque. It's an outdoor preschool where we work rain or shine. And we play in the mud, in the water, in the rain, in the sunshine, and we roll in the meadows, and we climb trees, and we teach them to care for the Mother Earth. And, the kids, they get all these rocks, and I go, "Where are you going with those rocks?" "I'm going to take them home." "Did you ask the Mother Earth?" "No, you need to ask her. She'll say, okay, but you need to ask her and thank her." And then they say, okay. And then they would ask, "Thank you, Mother Earth." And then they'll sometimes, because it's by the Pasadena Arroyo, there's hardly any water. And I go, "Father Sky, Mother Earth, please send us some rain. Our trees and our plants, they're hurting right now." And they watch me and they hear me. And then all of a sudden we get all this rain. So you're teaching them the power of prayer without enforcing prayer in the school. Right. You know what I'm saying? But just acknowledging, now we're teaching them about the plants. Stinging nettle. I didn't know much about them. I didn't even know the name of the plant, but we have a maestra that knows a lot about the plants. So we're teaching them now about water conservation and pollution and, who threw all this trash on my Mother Earth? And I'll start picking it up. So it's an ejemplo. To plant those seeds to take care of the earth. And I've done a lot of things. I mean, I worked, it wasn't because I didn't have children. It was just, I ended up working at this place that helps women at County Hospital with emergency needs. And we would give them a baby basket for a newborn, that a mother that comes from Mexico or Honduras or El Salvador and has nothing, or a woman that's in jail and gives birth at the hospital, and the baby's going to go home to grandma. So we would put up a basket together, and it came from a minister's dream to help the community as they visited patients. He was a chaplain, and he saw the need, and all these churches donated all these things, and we would do that for them and then give him assistance for rent or for food. And then it grew to help the homeless and do hygiene kits for the homeless. And I worked there for 18 years, and it was during the time where I had just miscarried for the last time. And I knew I wasn't going to have children. And it was difficult in the beginning. I couldn't even look at a pregnant woman. It was too painful. And then I would go to the bedside, and it would help heal me, because they would say, "Yo no tengo familia aquí. Gracias, gracias, que Dios te bendiga," la gente. And I remember one time I went to visit this African-American woman that was in shackles. I go, how could you give birth and put a woman in shackles? It just tore me up inside. And I go, "Just no, sister." I go, "Can I talk to her? Can I hold her hand?" I had asked permission from the officer there. And I'm like, "Your baby's going to be all right. Look at all these beautiful things." And I got to show her. And I thank Creator for all those gifts, for that gift of
Mm.
healing, because I'm okay with it now. I mean, in the beginning, it was like, oh, and now I get to share other people's children, and I'm there. You invite me, I'm there.
Well,
Mhm.
I mean, a mother is the center of creation, and you have mothered so many things and helped people, recreate themselves and transform themselves. So in a very large way, you are a grandmother. You're an abuelita.
Mhm.
You are, a grand teacher, a grand healer
Mhm.
that way. And you've been all your life, and the beauty of it, and I think this is what people don't understand. Healing is truth. We have to acknowledge our truth. And you being able to reflect your truth, which sometimes is painful, sometimes is shameful, sometimes is vulnerable, you being able to reveal the truth of your reflection then has put up a mirror for so many mujeres, for so many children, for so many men, for so many people in communities, so that they can begin to accept their truth. And when we begin our truth acceptance, that's the beginning of our healing path, And so, I want to acknowledge you for that journey and for your willingness and your struggle and your willingness to fight injustice, not so much with anger, but with the healing medicine, of truth and of love. As we move towards the close, I want to just ask you as an elder, because I see you as an elder and I see you as a healer,
Mhm.
if you could offer, you know, some consejos, some advice, some counsel, to that next generation. Many of us, as you mentioned, we didn't get the opportunity to have certain lessons or teachers or elders around, but we want to offer this opportunity. I want to, because you have so much experience and so much knowledge and wisdom. I wonder if you could share, just some points of advice or consejos or reflections, for that next generation.
I would just say that whatever you choose to do in your life, that it be something that brings you joy, something
Mm,
that you're passionate about, and don't let anybody stop your dream. Because my mother said, ¿para qué quieres ser actriz? ¿Te vas a hacer borracha? ¿Te vas a hacer lesbiana? I would take classes behind her back in Hollywood and never tell her about it and
mm,
continue what I wanted to do. So don't let anybody stop your dreams. The other is, speak your truth and don't be afraid to heal, to go to a therapist, to find outside help. Like the East LA Women's Center, I honor them. They saved my life. And,
mm,
I did so many things to help heal my body. I modeled nude at UCLA art class. I did an image for Alma Lopez of the Virgen de Guadalupe in bikini clad. I had to learn to embrace my body and love myself. Love yourself now. Don't
mm,
wait till you're in your 60s or whatever. Start now by loving yourself and connect with your higher power, whatever it is. If you want
mm,
to walk in nature and that's your higher power, if you want to go on the red road, ask Jerry and Jerry can connect you with me for our ceremony that we have out in Silmar, Hummingbird Lodge, find your way, whatever works for you. If it's La Virgen de Guadalupe, if it's your church online, agape, hiking in the mountains, whatever it may be that you follow that. And I just want to share one last thing is I got to make peace with my mom. My
mm,
mom had dementia and I got to take care of her. I didn't have to. I got to.
mm,
And then 4 months later, my papa passed. And I told my siblings I would be there for the last time of their life. I just didn't want to deal with the mortuary stuff. And I got to do that with my parents till their last breath.
mm.
Don't wait. If you have parents, show them your love now. Don't wait till after to go visit them at the graveside. Show them your love now. And peace and healing and forgiveness can happen if you
Mm,
are willing.
mm.
That's all I have,
Wow.
Jerry.
Ooh,
Thank
that's
you.
powerful, Show them your love now, And what a beautiful teaching, that starts with showing ourselves our love now. How do you love yourself? How do you acknowledge yourself? How do you accept yourself? Just the way you are with all the beautiful blessings, but also all the cargas, all the struggles. They're all part of that sacredness of who we are. And don't wait. Don't wait to share your love and acknowledge other people and do your work and so that there can be peace and healing, And you, Raquel, are one of our examples of that. I want to honor you. I want to tell you I love you and respect you so much. And it's been beautiful, to walk together this way. And we got so much still to do.
Yes.
Aunque somos viejitos, we're getting older, pero, we still
Mm-hmm.
got a lot to do. And really want to thank you so much for being willing to come on and share with us today. I want to just remind the audience of these teachings, that the Maestra Raquel has shared today, and encourage you to acknowledge yourself, love yourself, but also do the work that you need to do in order to transform those lessons and those challenges that have turned into trauma. There are people out there that can help. There's people out there that are willing to walk with you. And in the end, love yourself and reach out so you can do the work so that you can love others in that good way. I want to thank you all for joining us today. And if you have comments or reflections or teachings, share them with us. Share this podcast with others. Let them know. We have, over 110 episodes now. We welcome your comments and your suggestions. And as you go on to the day, just make sure you acknowledge and love yourself as you go through. Thank you very much. Klaso Kamatli.
I would just like to ask our listeners if they could help donate to Matilija Escuela Bosque for our work to help women who can't afford to send their kids to our school, and we provide scholarships for them. And the other one is for the East LA Women's Center, who helped my healing and saved my life. If you'd like to make a donation. Thank you.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.